It's 9:40 on a Tuesday night, the kitchen light's still on. He's read the message, the checkmark turned blue 8 minutes ago. You reread your own sentence, hunting for a word that might have sounded wrong. 8 minutes of silence, and your stomach has already tightened. What you don't know yet, staring at that blue checkmark, is that this exact reaction has a name, and it started long before you ever met this person. Your closest friend doesn't understand why a late reply bothers you this much. She can go 3 hours without a text and never think about it once. For you, that same 3-hour silence can spiral into a whole list of reasons he might be pulling away. Developmental psychologists studied this exact pattern as far back as the 1970s, in babies barely 12 months old, briefly separating them from their mother and watching their reaction on her return. Return. Researchers named it anxious attachment, a relational style that forms early, in childhood, and keeps deciding, decades later, how your body reacts to one late text. If you know that tightening in your stomach, that pull to check again, that need for reassurance on repeat, none of that is a character flaw. It's a documented attachment style, and it has a real origin. In the first months of life, an infant learns one essential thing. Does the person caring for me come back reliably when she leaves? When the answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no, present one day and distracted or overwhelmed the next, with no clear pattern, a child learns a lesson that lasts. Love can vanish at any moment, so stay on guard. A vigilance learned that early never fades on its own. It comes right back, almost unchanged, the moment an adult you love becomes even briefly unpredictable. None of this requires serious neglect. A parent going through a rough patch, a difficult divorce, a sudden move, can be enough to create that unpredictability without anyone meaning harm. A baby never separates absence caused by lack of love from absence caused by simply being overwhelmed. It records only one thing before it can even speak. Presence isn't guaranteed. First sign. You reread your partner's messages more than once, hunting for a different tone, a word that might have shifted since last time. A period where there's usually an emoji suddenly feels loaded, even though it's probably nothing more than punctuation. True in you. Second sign. After an argument, even a small one, you need to hear, out loud, that things are okay between you, sometimes more than once the same evening. That's never neediness in the way people casually throw the word around. It's your inner alarm system, shaped at 1 year old, simply asking for clear proof the bond still holds. Third sign. You remember the exact date, sometimes the hour, of every small contact break in past relationships, while the other person has usually forgotten all of it. Your brain files those moments away with almost surgical care, because to your alarm system, they carry the same weight as a real threat. Fourth sign. In a new relationship, you often feel an instant, almost electric intensity right from the first few dates, far stronger than the situation would objectively call for. There's a simple reason behind that early intensity. Part of you believes it has finally found the stable presence it's been searching for all along, and grabs hold before you've even really gotten to know the person. That's exactly why your closest friend feels none of this over the same 3-hour silence. If her parents' presence growing up was steady and predictable, her alarm system learned a different lesson than yours. Brief absence never threatens the bond. She doesn't love less than you do. She simply never learned to fear silence. Here's the good news. There's one simple move, almost immediate, to diffuse this vigilance the moment it fires. We'll get to it shortly. This pattern repeats itself, almost identically, from one relationship to the next, even with very different partners. Your alarm system was never really searching for one particular partner. It's confirming an old belief, set early. Love is unstable, so stay alert or you'll lose it. And sometimes, without meaning to, that constant vigilance wears down the very bond it's desperately trying to protect. Some people recognize all 4 signs right away. Others only 1 or 2, to varying degrees. And that's just as valid. Rereading and analyzing every message. Repeated reassurance seeking after tension. Painfully precise memory of past micro-breaks. Instant, almost electric intensity in the earliest dates. If you recognize yourself in at least 2 of these 4 signs, hold on to one sentence. You're not too much. Your nervous system just learned to stay alert far too early. This doesn't mean your childhood was necessarily difficult, nor that your parents acted with any intent to harm. Most inconsistent parents are that way unintentionally, worn down by their own lives. Nor does it mean this style is fixed forever. Researchers have followed adults across decades, and some do shift, given time and the right relationships, toward a more secure attachment. Recognizing this pattern today is never a verdict. It's the first concrete step toward a connection that costs you less constant vigilance. Here's one simple, concrete move you can start tonight if any of these signs spoke to you. Next time a silence triggers that pull in your stomach, wait a full 10 minutes before rereading the message or sending a new one. 10 minutes never resolves the anxiety completely, but it's enough to tell your real alarm apart from an automatic reflex installed at 1 year old. Second move. Next time you feel that need for reassurance, name it out loud to your partner, plainly, without any accusation. I need to hear that we're okay right now. That one sentence, said calmly, gets you further almost every time than 10 messages reread in silence. Some people need only a week for this to click. Others need months, and both are completely fine. There's no correct pace here, only your own. Third move, a slower one. Keep a small notebook where, each time your alarm fires, you write down what set it off and what actually happened afterward. After a few weeks, that notebook becomes proof, in your own handwriting, that most of your alarms never announced a real loss. One partner alone can never fully resolve this anxiety. A stable partner helps, but the real shift always starts with how you interpret the silence yourself. This pattern never stops at romantic relationships, not even close. You'll find it in the employee who rereads her last work email more than once, hunting for a different tone in her manager's silence. You'll find it in the friend who messages a quiet group chat 3 times in a row, convinced, with zero evidence, that he's quietly being pushed out. You'll find it in the adult son who calls a parent every single Sunday, who's never once said a kind word to him, purely because stopping those calls would feel like losing that parent for good. You'll find it in the roommate who stays in an unbearable living situation because she signed a full year's lease, and moving out now would feel to her like admitting failure. This pattern knows nothing of love, work, or friendship. It knows exactly one thing: silence, and the old fear that silence means being left. This pattern doesn't care about age or background either. It shows up anywhere a person learned, as a child, that closeness was never guaranteed. You never grew more sensitive over time. You stayed loyal since your first year of life to a lesson learned too early. Stay alert so absence never catches you off guard. Needing a stable connection is never a weakness. Only the way that need shows up today can, little by little, shift. None of this means the person across from you is a bad partner. Often it's two well-meaning people, both caught in a pattern neither one consciously chose. Next time that pull in your stomach shows up over silence, come back to these 4 signs, one at a time, calmly. Not to force yourself to feel nothing, just to remember this reaction has a real, nameable origin, and that it can ease over time. And that weight, real as it is never permanent. It gets lighter the moment you finally give it a name, out loud, even alone in a room. Back to that phone, that blue check mark, those 8 minutes of silence between you two. This time you know exactly what's happening in your body and why. That clarity alone already changes how you carry this silence. You were never too sensitive. You were carrying, without knowing it, a lesson learned before you could even read a clock, let alone a blue check mark. If one specific name just came to mind while watching this, send them this video right now, before you keep scrolling. And maybe, for the first time in a while, you don't reach for the phone right away to check again. Which of these 4 signs hit closest to home for you today, honestly? Drop it in the comments. Even just the number at the quiet Stronghold. We break down a pattern like this every week, together.